You walk into chaos and immediately look for the solution. Not because someone asked you to, not because you planned to, but because something in you, something trained and automatic and deeply familiar, already knows what needs to happen before anyone else has finished understanding the problem. You feel restless when something is broken and nobody is handling it. You feel the quiet pull toward the thing that needs fixing, the situation that needs stabilizing, the room that needs someone to hold it together. And most of the time, that someone is you. The world has a lot of opinions about this. They say you're practical, capable, reliable, and then, in the next breath, emotionally unavailable, controlling, closed off, too focused on solutions, not present enough, not open enough, not soft enough. Just fix yourself, they say, as if you don't already know how. But psychology says something different, something more precise, something that gets underneath the capability and asks what it was built from and why. Because fixing everything isn't random. It isn't simply personality. It is a structured, deeply developed pattern that forms early in response to specific emotional environments. And in most cases, it is linked to 3 rare psychological traits that run far deeper than anyone around you has probably ever seen. This isn't a video about what's wrong with you. It's about what your strength was actually built from, and what it might still be protecting you from, without you knowing. Trait 1. You learn that usefulness equals worth. The first trait is the deepest one, and it shapes everything else. Somewhere early, you received a message, not always in words, sometimes through the way praise arrived, the way attention was distributed, the way the room responded when you handled something well versus when you expressed something vulnerable. The message was this: you matter most when you're needed, and you absorbed it completely. So, you became the capable one, the dependable one, the one who didn't add to the problem, who subtracted from it. You got noticed when you performed. You got respected when you stayed calm. You got loved, or something that felt close to love, when you made yourself useful. And over time, usefulness stopped being something you did. It became something you were. But psychology links this pattern to environments where emotional expression wasn't rewarded, but competence was. Maybe you were the responsible one in an unstable home. Maybe the adults around you were overwhelmed, and you learned that the fastest way to earn peace was to become dependable. Maybe you discovered, earlier than any child should, that being low maintenance and capable got you more approval than expressing fear or sadness or need. So, now as an adult, you don't just solve problems because you're good at it. You solve problems because somewhere underneath the capability, your nervous system still quietly believes that your value lives there. That being needed is the closest thing to being loved that ever felt safe. That's why being unable to help doesn't just feel ineffective. It feels like erasure. That matters. And it changes everything that comes after it. Trait 2. You convert emotion into a problem because problems feel safer. Here's the distinction most people miss entirely. You are not afraid of difficulty. You are afraid of helplessness. Those are not the same thing. A practical problem has edges. It can be diagnosed, measured, approached, repaired. But emotion doesn't always work that way. Grief cannot be tightened like a bolt. Loneliness cannot be patched in an afternoon. Shame cannot be fixed with a plan. And for a mind wired toward action, that kind of formlessness can feel genuinely intolerable. So, you do something psychologically understandable. You convert. If someone you love is hurting, you offer solutions. If a relationship feels strained, you correct behavior. If life feels unstable, you organize, improve, prepare, manage. Because action gives relief. Action creates the sensation of control. And control for you is not about power. It is about not drowning. This is where people get it wrong. They look at a man who solves instead of sits, and they assume he doesn't care. But often the opposite is true. He cares so much that staying in emotional uncertainty without a task feels like standing in open water with nothing to hold. Problem solving isn't avoidance. It is the closest thing to staying present that he was ever taught. The cost comes later, when the problem is emotional and cannot be solved, when someone needs him to simply sit in the difficulty with them, not resolve it, not improve it, just stay. And he doesn't know how, because no one ever taught him that presence without a solution still counts. That is not a character flaw. That is an incomplete education in how to love. Trait 3. Control feels like safety, because once it was. There is a particular kind of calm that fixer-type men carry into stressful moments. It looks like composure. It looks like competence. Sometimes it looks like the kind of quiet authority that makes everyone else feel safer just because he's in the room. But underneath that calm is often a nervous system belief so old it barely registers as a belief anymore. If I stay in control, if things won't fall apart. That belief has a history. It usually begins in environments where instability was real, where adults were emotionally unpredictable, where the mood of a room could shift without warning, and where a child learned through careful observation that if he could anticipate the problem, he could sometimes prevent the damage. So he started scanning, reading the room, noticing what was wrong before it became a crisis. Taking over because taking over felt safer than waiting for someone else to fail. That survival strategy worked, and because it worked, it calcified into personality. Now, he is the one who sees what needs fixing before anyone else does. He plans because uncertainty unsettles him. He handles things because passivity feels like a risk he can't afford. And the more capable he becomes, the more impossible it feels to step back. This is why fixer-type men often look most alive in a crisis. Crisis gives them a role, a clear function, a reason to be in the room. But remove the crisis. Ask them to simply be present in ambiguity, in emotional mess, in problems that can't be solved. And suddenly the ground shifts. Control for them was never about dominance. It was about survival dressed in competence. And understanding that changes how you see the man and how he might begin to see himself. So if this is you, if you are the one who fixes everything, carries everything, handles everything, understand what psychology is actually saying. You are not emotionally empty. You are strategically defended. You are not cold. You are highly adapted. You are not just practical. You are someone whose strength was built for reasons. Built early, built carefully, built in response to environments that needed you to be capable before they ever asked if you were okay. That strength is real. It is valuable. It has protected people. It has held things together that would have collapsed without you, but it has also cost you something. It may have cost you the experience of being known rather than needed, of being held rather than relied upon, of existing in a room not as the solution, but simply as yourself. The healthiest version of this is not a man who stops being capable. It is a man who no longer needs his capability to prove his worth. A man who can still fix the problem, but doesn't disappear inside the fixing. A man who knows the difference between a moment that needs his hands and a moment that needs his honesty. Because some things genuinely do need fixing, but some things need presence. Some things need softness. Some things need a man who can put the tools down and simply stay. You spent years learning how to repair the world. The question now is quieter and harder. What in you still needs care? Subscribe to UNFELT and press the bell icon. I will see you in next video.